Hi everyone, welcome to Learn Python. In this video, I'm going to give you a complete jumpstart into Python. We'll set up your IDE, write your first lines of code, learn variables, take user input, use if statements, build a simple calculator, and wrap everything into functions. By the end, you'll understand how real Python programs are structured and how you'll be able to start building your own. Without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to Learning Python, Episode 1. In this tutorial, we're going to learn about what is a programming language and what is Python. Alright, so here we're going to learn, what is a programming language, what is Python, why we're using Python, and how to download Python. Alright, so first, what is a programming language? So a programming language is a set of instructions that allow programmers to create software and applications by telling computers what to do. So let's say, in English, you tell a computer, hey, add two numbers. It's not going to know how to do that. So you have to use a programming language to tell, what you want it to do. So we have a quote here, programming isn't about what you know, it's about what you can figure out. Alright, so we have some two important concepts here. So what do computers understand? So they understand something called machine language. It's made up of binary numbers that represent data and instructions. But so they can understand this, so why do we need programming languages? So we can't understand machine language. It's really complicated. If you searched up, you wouldn't understand anything. But humans can understand machine language and computers can't understand English. So we need to create a bridge in between those so the machine can understand and the human can understand. So that's why we need programming languages. So how do they work? So they use something called a compiler. So a compiler is a program that's, with the language that translates the source code that you wrote into a machine-readable language. So I took this little snippet off the internet here. It's a sorting function. So essentially what it does is that the programming language takes this code, uses a compiler to, convert it to machine code, and it's sent to the computer where the process can be ran. Alright, now we're going to learn about what is Python. So what is it? So it's one of the most easiest, simplest, and versatile languages in the entire world. It's really popular and it's also very versatile. You can use it for a variety of things. Alright, so now we have another quote, and this is the Zen of Python, sort of what Python is. It's simple is better than complex, complex is better than complicated, flat is better than nested, sparse is better than dense. And all you really have to understand here is that Python prioritizes simplicity rather than complexity like in other languages. Alright, so how does Python work? So this is going to be a little complicated, but if you don't pick everything up, that should be fine. So Python works by taking human-readable code and converts it into an intermediate bytecode format, then it executes that line by line using an interpreter. So essentially what that means is that, Python is a high-level language, meaning that it's really similar to, human language. So if you convert that directly into machine language, it's really inefficient. So Python uses an intermediate, so it converts into bytecode, which is a machine language, but also isn't the original source code. And it does that line by line, and then afterwards, it compiles each of those individual lines. Alright, so number 3, why do we use Python in this tutorial? So essentially 3 main things. It's easy, popular, and it's versatile. It's easy. It's considered a programming language that's very, very, very similar to English. Well, not very, but it's similar. So it's one of the easier languages to learn. Next, it's popular. It is probably the most popular language in the world right now. And lastly, which is also most importantly, it's versatile. You can use it for so many things. I personally use it for data science and AI, but you can use it for software engineering and essentially many, many things that are just unlimited. All right, so I have a little comparison right here. You can see it's a calculator. So this is a calculator in Python, and we're going to look at another code snippet that's also a calculator in C++. C++ is a different language. It's a lot older and considered a lot more difficult. So here it is. So you can see it's pretty long. It's pretty hard to understand. And if you just go back here, look at Python. It's just so much more simple. It looks so much easier to comprehend. You got 2 inputs right here. You have an operation. Depending on what that operation is, you just print a result. C++, it's pretty hard to see what's going on here for just a person who's new to coding, which is what just makes Python just so good to start out with. Alright, 4, we're going to download Python. Alright, so there's 3 easy steps. I'm going to lead you through them, but it's really easy. Just go to python.org, you download the installer, and you complete the installation process. So let's just check that out. Okay, so what you're going to do first is you're going to go to python.org. Okay, what you're going to go here, you're going to click on downloads, and you're going to download the latest version. I'm currently on Windows. If you have Mac OS or Linux, you just click on that whatever operating system you're on. We're going to download it. We're going to download the installer here. We're going to wait for that to finish. It is done. I'm going to click on it. Alright, so it's going to take us to this. Don't worry, it's pretty simple. So you want to use admin privileges when installing it so you can install everything. And this is very important. You want to add it to the path. Essentially what that means is that when you run a program, you don't have to specify, where that program is in the operating system. It's like really easy. It just makes it a lot easier. Just click that. All right, we're going to install that and we're going to wait for it to finish. All right, so now our start setup was successful. So let's close this and now check if we successfully installed Python. So we're going to go here. We search for a command prompt or whatever, thing you have for your own operating system. And we can type in Python. All right, so now if you see this, then Python successfully downloaded. You could try a little code here. We'll just do print. Then we'll put two brackets here. Hello world. You can see that it works. All right, so that's going to be it for this tutorial. In the next episode, we're going to learn how to download VS Code so we can start coding in Python. That's it. Goodbye. Learning Python, episode 2. So in this episode, we're going to download Visual Studio Code so we can code in Python. Last episode, we downloaded Python and learned what a programming language is. All right, so we're going to learn what is an IDE, what is Visual Studio Code, how to download it, and setting up Python there. All right, first, what is an IDE? An IDE, or Integrated Development Environment, it's a software application that helps programmers develop software code efficiently. If we didn't have IDEs, we'd be coding in terminals and shells, which is really inefficient. It's really hard to code, so people made IDEs. So here are some IDEs. There's PyCharm, Notepad++, Atom, VS Code. In this episode, we're going to be using VS Code. All right, 2. What is Visual Studio? Visual Studio, or people call it VS Code, it's an IDE that's made for, Microsoft, that's made by Microsoft for Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. All right, so there's a bunch of features as debugging, syntax highlighting, which just essentially means that it colors your code. There's intelligent code completion, snippets, code refactoring, and embedded version control. All right, so now we're going to download Visual Studio Code. And it's 3 easy steps. We just go to the website, we download the installer, and we complete the installation process. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so we're going to search up here Visual Studio Code. And we're going to go to the website, and we're going to download Windows or whatever operating system you have. All right, so it's done downloading. We're going to click on it. And see, first you have a license agreement. You're going to agree to that. You're going to go next. And you have a few options here. It should already select all of them for you. You're going to create a desktop icon. You're going to register code as an editor for supported file types. And you're going to add to path. And you don't really have to select both of these. Right. So now we're just going to install it. And we're going to wait for it to finish installing. All right, now it's finished installing. We're going to click this check mark here to launch it the second we finish the setup. Okay, so once VS Code finishes installing, this should open. And what we're going to do first is we're going to open a folder. So we're going to go to the top left. We're going to click on File and then Open Folder. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to create a new file, folder to store all our Python stuff. We're going to right click. And we're going to go to New Folder. And then I'm going to type in, just going to call it Python. You can name it whatever you want. I'm going to select that. And then now that we have that open, we're going to click on this little icon right here. It's called New File. Hey, sorry about that. And then New File. And we're going to type in main py. So the py here means we're just telling the computer, all right, so we're making a Python file here. And the main here is the name. So we can call, code.py or script.py, but I like to name it main. So before we run any code here, we're going to go down here on the left sidebar to extensions. And then we're going to go to the search bar right here. We're going to type in Python. And then we're going to go and find the Python. It should have this little Python symbol, and then it's made by Microsoft. And I already have it installed, but if I uninstalled it, this is what it should look like. And you can install it. All right, so now that we have Python installed on this, we're going to go and type in code runner. So it's in the name. It's just going to help us run our code. And let's just say, I install that. And look at that. All right, so now that we have both of our stuff installed, we can finally go back to our file. And let's just type in some code. So we'll do print hello world. Okay, so now that we have this typed out, we can go here, right here, and press run code. But nothing happens, even though, we already typed some stuff. That's because we haven't saved our file yet. So what we need to do here, we need to press Control S. And before, we had this little white dot. When you press Control S, that goes away. That means our file is saved. Another way you could save it is just go into File and then Save. All right, so now let's try running our code. and you can see it works. That's going to be it for this episode. In the next episode, we're going to start learning how to code in Python. Learning Python, episode 3. And in this episode, we're going to learn what are variables. In the last episode, we set up an IDE, we set up Visual Studio, and we just set up Python on there. Okay, so we're going to do 3 things in this video. We're going to learn what are variables, different types of variables, and creating variables in Python. Alright, so first, what are variables? A variable, you can think of it as a container, and this container can contain a value. So in this little image right here, you see age, and you give it a value. You can also do this for words, or you can have a list of variables if you really wanted to. Okay, so now we're going to learn about different types of variables. So I'm going to say 4 types of variables. There are actually many more types of variables like dictionaries and sets, but we don't need to know that right now. So first we have lists. Lists are just a collection of variables, and this collection can contain different types of variables. Integers, this is a variable stored as a singular digit like 1, 2, 3, -5, anything like that. And a string, it's just a variable that holds text. And floats are just variables that have a decimal place. That's all we really need to know about variables right now. So now we're actually going to start coding in Python and create some variables. So now I'm in Visual Studio Code. We downloaded last episode, and if you don't have it downloaded, you can go to the previous episode and download it and get it set up for Python. So here I am in our little folder that we made last episode. I have our main.py. If you don't remember how to make a file, press new file, then the name of your file always has to end in .py, but you can name the main part whatever you want. So let's create a variable. So we're going to create a variable, we're going to name it x. And then we're going to set it equal to, so you're going to type in an equal sign, and then put 0. So x is equal to 0. So I'm going to put a hashtag here. This essentially indicates that you're making a comment. It doesn't affect the code at all. You can just type in, what the code is doing. So this is going to be an integer. So x is equal to 0. This is an integer. Y, another one called y. We're going to set the equal to 0.1. And you can probably guess this is going to be a float. And let's make another one called z, okay? And what this is going to be, we're going to put in 2 quotation marks. I'm going to type in string. And this is a string. And now what we're going to do here is we're going to print all of them. We're going to type in print, and then 2 parentheses. And in between those parentheses, we're going to type in x. Okay, now we're going to press enter. We're going to put another print statement in, put y, and then we're going to do the same for z. And we're going to press Ctrl S to save. We're going to go to the top right here and click on run code. You can see it runs, and it prints everything at 0, 0.1, and string. Now, how about a list? So let's delete that with all our print statements, and we're going to create something called, let's just say, variables. Press enter as usual, and now we're going to do 2 brackets, not parentheses, brackets. And in those you can type in essentially anything. You can type in 0, 12. But what we're going to do, we're going to store our x, y, and z variables. So x and z, and that's a list. And now let's print our variables. So print, between those parentheses, you can put in variables. And now let's run our code. And you can see, it works. And your list can also be something else. It can be like, let's create another one called other list. And it can be filled with maybe some numbers, like name, like 12, 18, 2.0. And you can see it can hold essentially any values you want for a list. So that's essentially all the data types you need to know for getting started with variables. So I have a little exercise for you now. It can be create a float, a string, a integer, and put them all into a list, and then print it out. So you can pause the video here and try it yourself, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So I hope you're done now. So let's do it. So let's create a float. So we're going to call it x equal to 0.01. And let's create y, which is going to be a string. We'll just call it hello. And z, which is going to be an integer. So we'll do 29. And now let's put them all into a list. So we'll put let's create something called, I don't know, I. Let's just do I. And then we're going to put I equal to our 2 brackets. And in between those brackets, we're going to do x, comma, y, comma, z. That's going to be our list right there. So now we're going to go down here, press enter, then print I. Press Ctrl S to save, and then go to top right, run code. You can see it works. So that's going to be it for this episode. In the next episode, we're going to learn about more advanced types of Python functions, and we're going to actually create our first project. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Welcome to Learning Python, episode 4. In this episode, we're going to learn how to take user input, and we're going to create our first project, and it's going to be a Mad Libs project. So here we are. We had a little file from last time, and we also created a folder, and we downloaded VS Code and all that. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to go to our main.py file that we created. I'm going to click right click, go down to rename. I'm going to rename it variables.py. Okay? The reason why we're doing this is because we're going to create multiple files in this project. Multiple files in our tutorial is what I'm trying to say. So let's say you forget how to create a list. You can just go back to the variables.py and you can refer back to it. So what we're going to do today is we're going to learn how to take user input. So I'm going to go ahead, create a new file, and type in user_input.py. So what we're going to do here is we're going to learn how to take user input. Now it's very easy. All I do is type in input, 2 brackets, and then quotation marks, okay? And in this quotation mark, you can type in your prompt. Essentially, you can do enter name here, and it'll add a colon and a space. So I'm going to run it. Okay, so now I have a little prompt, and we can type anything we want, just like that, see? Except this name that we typed, Kelly, it's not being stored anywhere. The computer, forgets it. It's just not stored anywhere. So the way we do that is we create a variable for it, and that's going to be very easy. We can type in name equals 2, because we're creating a variable now, is equal to input, and we'll type in our prompt, which is enter name here. Okay, Control S to save, press run. Okay, so enter name here. We'll type in, I don't know, Mark. And you see nothing happens, but now the computer has it stored. So let's try printing it. Print name. Control S, run. Enter name here, Mark, Mark, and then you can see it prints it out. So that's really all you need to know for today. So what we're going to do is we're going to create our first project. So it's going to be a Mad Libs. So I'm just going to type in this little comment here. So a comment, if you don't remember, it doesn't affect your code. It's something you can type in to just tell yourself what's going on. So I'm going to type in Mad Libs. And if you don't know what Mad Libs is, it's essentially you're given, a bunch of sentences and you can fill in, fill in certain spots with a verb and noun, sort of like that. So let's just create a sentence, very similar, very simple one. And then we'll call it, I don't know, it'll be very simple. My name is blank, and I like to eat blank. Okay, so all we need to do here is we need to fill in these spots with a certain variable, okay? So let's take we're gonna need 2 variables here, one for the name and one for what you like to eat. So let's create 2 variables. So name is equal to, and we'll leave that blank for now. And then we'll do food, okay? So what we need to do here is we need to take input for a name and a food. So we type in input, and then 2 quotation marks, enter name, and then for food, input, enter food. You put those in quotation marks. There we go. Okay, so now we have some variables stored for name and food. Now, here's the thing. How do we print these variables along with, some words, some strings? So it's really simple. All we need to do is, let's just do what we did before. My name is, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna go outside of our quotations mark, and we press plus name. And what this is called, it's called string concatenation. It's where you combine 2 strings together, because name is a string and food is a string. So my name is, something, and then plus again, and then quotation marks, and put a space there, and my favorite food is, and then we'll do plus food. We'll add a little space here just to make it look all nice, and that should be it. So let's run it. Let's enter our name. Let's do Mark. Food, I don't know, quiche. And you can see it works. My name is Mark, and my favorite food is quiche. That's how you take simple. It's really easy, and that's going to be really simple. It's really easy, and that's going to be for today's project. Welcome to Learning Python, episode 5. And in this episode, we're going to learn how to make if statements. So let's get right into it. I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to name it ifstatements.py. And let's get right into it. So what is an if statement? An if statement is if a certain condition is met, then do something. And let's see how this works in Python. So I'm going to create a little variable here. I'm going to call x, and I'm going to set it to 0. Now, let's create our if statement. But before we do that, I need to show you all the types of conditions. So, the framework of an if statement is you have your if statement, and then you have your condition, and then after that, you have an action. And this condition can be a lot of things. Like it could be something's greater than, it could be something's less than, and there's a few things you can do. So there's greater than, so this is going to equal to, this is greater than, and it's going to be this little angled bracket right here, and the smaller part's pointing to the right. And you also have your less than symbol, and then you also have greater than or equal to, greater than or equal to. You also have, this is going to be less than or equal to, and you also have equals to. So let's see how this looks in Python. So we're going to actually create our if statement now. So if x, and let's do greater than here. So if x is greater than, let's think of a number like 1. And then now we need our action. So I'm going to type in a colon and then enter. And what should happen here is that this indent here should appear. It should indent your line all the way up to here. And what this does is that this indent sort of indicates that, okay, whatever you're typing here belongs to this if statement. So everything you type in this indent will be ran if the condition above is true. So if I type in print x is greater than 1, then this will only get ran if this condition is true. But let's say, you type it outside of the if statement here. And the error message here is because you haven't typed anything inside the if statement. But if you put this outside, then this will get ran no matter what. So let's see what happens if you try running this. Control S to save and press run. So you can see nothing happens. That's because 0 is not greater than 1. So this doesn't get called. But let's change x to, 20. Let's see what happens there. Control S to save, run. You can finally see that x is greater than 1. And you can also have, less than 1. So if you run this won't be called because 20 is not less than 1. You can, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, equals to. And that's really it for these conditions for the if statement, but there's also one more thing. And that's going to be the else if. And let's say you're trying to create, a bunch of scenarios here. So let's say, if x is equal to 1, do this, but what about if x is greater than 1? How about we do this? And what if x is less than something? We need to do this. That's what the else if is for. So, and what happens here is that if the condition above is not true, let's say if this wasn't true, then we would make an else if below, and then that condition would be ran. The else if below would be ran. And let's try to create this in Python. So I'm going to do if x is greater than 1. I'm going to type in print x is greater than 1. And then let's say, what if this isn't true? We need to create another scenario for this. So what if elif? This is else if. So in Python, we just do it elif to make it short and sweet to the point. Else if x is less than 1. Then we're going to print x is, let me spell right there. Print x is less than 1. So what happens here so we have x is equal to 20 here. So x is equal to 20. So if 20 is greater than 1, that's true. It'll print this. So that means it's over. This won't ever be ran because this is true. But let's say we set x to like negative 200. This won't be true. But if this condition isn't true, it'll move on to the next one, which is this elif right here. And then this one will be called. But if you put, 2 if statements, then this will be ran, and this will also be ran. Which, may seem fine, but in certain situations, it may not be. So you always want to do elifs. And there's also one last thing you want to learn about, and that's the else statement. And then what essentially that is if all other if/elif statements are not true, then the else statement will be ran. So let's say we set if x is greater than 1. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. That. I'm going to put it down here. So if let's say x is not greater than 1 and x is not less than 1. If all else is not true, we'll type in else. Print x is not greater than 1 and it is not less than 1. And let's see what happens if you try running that. So I'm going to comment this out temporarily and comment this out temporarily. So I'm going to set x to 1. And what's going to happen here is that it's not greater than 1, it's not less than 1, so this should be called. Let's see what happens. You can see x is not greater than 1, and it's not less than 1. So, that is really all you need to know about if statements. Welcome to Learning Python Episode 6. In this episode, we're going to learn how to make a calculator, and we're also going to learn what type conversion is. Let's get right into it. First, we're going to learn what type conversion is. So, I'm going to create a file called type_conversion.py. So what is type conversion? Type conversion is where you convert the data type of a variable to another data type. So an example of this would be like a string to an integer. So I'm going to create an example here. So first I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to call it number as string. I'm going to set it equal to 1, but this 1 is wrapped. It's not 1. Wrapped by a quotation mark. So this is a string. So how do you convert this into an integer? The way you do this is called the int function. So the int function attempts, that's the keyword, attempts, to convert a certain data type to an integer. So let's see how this works. I'm going to create a variable here called number as integer. I'm going to set it equal to int, and then that's going to wrap our number as string. And now this is going to be an integer. And the way you can check this, you don't really have to know this right now, but you can print type and then wrap it around by number as integer. Let's see what happens. You can see class int, and then our old one, which is number as string. See string. So it got converted there. You don't really have to know that right now. You also have there is also the string function, the list function, and you don't really have to know those right now. So let's just move on and make our calculator. So let's create a new file here. I'm going to call it calculator.py. So first, let's create two numbers here, which we'll be performing operations on. And we're also going to create another input for the operation we'll be performing the numbers on. So first, let's create num1. And I'm going to set it equal to input, enter first number. Next, I'm going to have num2. I'm going to set it to equal to input, enter second number. Put colon and space there, just to make it look nice. So the problem here is that the input function, it always returns a string. You can see in this little doc string that here it always returns a string. The way you can solve this is by using our little type conversion here and type in int and wrap it around. You can also do float, which I forgot to type in back there, but I'm going to do int for simpler purposes. Int. So now our first two numbers are integers. Now we need our operation, and we're going to keep that as a string because we can't convert that into an integer because it'll return an error. So enter operation. Okay. So now we're going to need some if statements here. So we're going to go back to our if statements here. So we're going to need an if else thing here, and we're also going to need this equals to. So let's check it out. So if operation is equals to, let's first do, I'm going to type in all the possible things. It's going to be plus, minus, divide, multiply. So if operation is equal to plus, we're going to put in a colon, then enter, and then we're going to print num1 plus num2. And then we need elif, operation is equal to minus, print
num1 minus num2. And, so on. It's going to get a little repetitive here. Operation is equal to divide, print num1 divided by num2. And elif operation is equal to multiply, print num1 times num2. Okay, so now we have all those scenarios played out. We're also going to need something if, the user mistyped something and it doesn't fit any of these. So we're going to need an else. So else, we're just going to print error. Error, that's how you spell error. Okay, there we go. So that's actually going to be our calculator. So let's see what happens if you run it. So we have to enter the first number. Let's do 1. The second number, we have also 1, and then plus. You can see 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. You can try it for, multiplying. We can do some pretty big numbers like that number, and we can do that. We can do multiply. You can see we get a product here. And let's say, you make an error here. We'll just do 3, 4, and then we'll just do like some random jargon here for the operation. You'll see error because it doesn't fit any of these. So it'll print out an error. So I also want to show one last thing here before we end it off. And that is, let's see what happens if we type in something that's not supposed to be a number for our number here. I'm going to run it here. Let's say I type in hello for the first number. So now we get an error here because it tried to convert something that isn't a number into a number. It says invalid literal for int with base 10 hello. See, it's not possible. So it's going to return an error if you try to convert an integer, something that's like a string of letters to an integer, it's going to return an error. Just remember to know that. That's going to be it for this episode. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Welcome to Learning Python, and in this episode, we're going to learn how to make functions. Functions in Python are one of the most integral and important things to learn when learning the Python programming language. Let's get right into it. Let's go ahead and create a new file, and we'll call it functions.py. There we go. So first of all, let's ask the question here. What are functions? So functions are essentially blocks of code that you can write, which only run when called, and you can reuse it. So let's type that in. Functions are blocks of code that can be reused and ran when called. So essentially what this means is that you can write a certain piece of code and you can call that code. So it's not ran right away. You can just call that code and let it run anywhere you want. And what's so useful about this is that you don't have to reuse blocks of code, copy and paste, just put it all into a function and you can just run that function whenever you want. So let's start creating a function. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to type in def. Def is short for define. That means we're going to define a function. So def, we'll just call it do underscore something, and then 2 parentheses, a colon on the outside, press enter, and whatever's inside this indent belongs to that function. So first of all, let's just make it do something. So print, and we'll just do doing something. There we go. And let's see what happens if we try to run this. You can see nothing happens. That's because you have to call this function. This isn't going to do anything. You need to call it, tell it, okay, time to start running. And to do that, you type in your function name, you do something, and in this case, 2 parentheses. Sometimes in these parentheses, you may want to type in parameters, and we'll get into that later. So let's try running this, Control S to save, and you can see that it works. Now let's move on to something a little bit more exciting. Let's do some parameters. The thing with functions is that they can take in parameters. So you can take in like A and B. So these are things that you can insert into the function, and it can use these parameters to do something. And in this case, we'll rename this thing to add. There we go, add. And now what we can do, we can print A plus B. And what this is going to do is we're going to give it 2 variables, and it's going to do something for us. It's going to print whatever the value of adding these 2 variables are. Let's try it out. And we'll call our function add, and A will be equal to, let's just say 10, comma, and then B will set that equal to 20. Let's see what happens. You can see 30. You can see we pass in this parameters here, and we can change it to whatever we want. They can make this 1,000, and that should work perfectly fine. And the thing is here is that we can also return values. And if you don't know what that is, so you can see that we have the print right here. You can see it spits out a value right away. So let's say if I do something called return. So return won't print it right away. If I do return a plus b, and then I run add, I'll set a to 10 and b to 120. And you can see nothing happens yet. That's because this return, all it does is that it sort of stores this as a variable and it's not really getting printed. So we can set this to like d is equal to, and then add, then you gotta do a is equal to 10, b is equal to 20, whatever. And then finally that's gonna get stored but not printed yet. So you gotta print d. I can finally see that gets printed. And you can also do something like, you can wrap this around, you could wrap a print around this. And you can see it should work perfectly fine. So the thing with functions here is, let's say, want to create a function called def, like say hello. And let's do print hello. And let's say you're in a situation where you need to, just do this a bunch. Now in this case, I have to print and then hello, and then print hello. Now it doesn't seem too cumbersome yet, but let's say eventually you're gonna start making functions that maybe even like 20, 30, maybe even 100 lines of code. And you really don't wanna copy and paste that everywhere. So you could just say hello here, you might need it like somewhere down here. And this is essentially why functions are so useful. It just saves so much time, it makes your code look cleaner and makes it run more efficiently. That's gonna be it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. That's your full Python jumpstart. You learned the basics, built a calculator, and wrote real functions. That's the foundation for everything else you'll build. If you want more projects, deeper tutorials, or AI-focused Python videos, they're all on this channel. Hit subscribe and keep leveling up.